What's up, y'all? It's your boy KSK Sports here, and let's be honest about Deshaun Watson. If I'm going to be honest about Deshaun Watson, his tenure with the Cleveland Browns it hasn't been that impressive for somebody that you're paying $230 million over 5 years. Now, Deshaun, his record with the Cleveland Browns is 9-10, and for what you're paying him, the return on investment hasn't been that great. He hasn't been that productive on the field. And on top of that, not getting your return on investment, Deshaun Watson also hasn't been available. Let's rewind this baby back to 2022 when Deshaun first signed with the Cleveland Browns. Now, his original suspension was supposed to be for 6 games. It got retroactively bumped up to 11 games. So his very first season with the Cleveland Browns, he only played the last 6 games of the year. Now, it was a mixed bag. I believe he was 3-3 in those games. He had a 3-touchdown game against the Washington Commanders at the time. But it was up and down. It was to be expected that he was going to be a little rusty, considering that he had a 700-day layoff. Now, let's fast forward to 2026 now. If Deshaun Watson was to be penciled in a starter, he would have a second almost 700-day layoff between the last time he played in 2024 to when he would start for the opener for the Cleveland Browns in 2026. All right, now let's hop back to 23. Now, Deshaun Watson, this was probably his best stretch of football for the Cleveland Browns. I believe he went 5-1 in the 6 starts in 2023. He had the game against the Baltimore Ravens in the second half where he was a perfect 14 for 14, and that's when he had shoulder issues as well as other issues as well. I think he might have fractured his ankle in that game or something like that. So he had a glenoid issue with his shoulder, which is like a pitcher injury. And on top of that, he had other injuries sustained in that game as well. So he was going to be out for the rest of 2023. So he comes back in 2024. I believe he started 7 games in 2024. And to be frank about it, he was really bad. He was not good. I believe he was 1-6 as a starter. In the game where he ruptured his Achilles, it did seem like he was trying to turn the page. I believe the couple games before, he had played a little bit better than before. This is coming off a game where he had against the Washington Commanders, where it essentially looked like he quit in that game. And the Cleveland Browns, they quit on Kevin Stefanski in that game. But yeah, I forget the game. I forget who the game was against that he ruptured his Achilles. But he was having a good half in that game before he ruptured his Achilles. I believe the Browns were going in to score in that game, and that's when he ruptured his Achilles. And then in the process of rehabbing, he ruptured his Achilles again. So let's get back to 2026, where we currently stand with Deshaun Watson. Let me get this right. Deshaun Watson has not been Deshaun Watson. Now, we're looking at Deshaun Watson from his time in Houston. Deshaun Watson in Houston was phenomenal. I think he made the Pro Bowl 3 times. He was in the conversation as being top level quarterback in the same throws as Patrick Mahomes. So that was once upon a time. I think people are looking at Deshaun Watson that think he can be the starter for the Cleveland Browns in a 2020 vacuum. And that's not Deshaun Watson in 2026. Now, do I believe that there's something inside of Deshaun Watson left? The Cleveland Browns fan in me wants to believe that, because that would be good for the Cleveland Browns if Deshaun Watson was the best version of himself. And even I think even the most hardened Shedeur Sanders fan, they would concede, yeah, if Deshaun Watson was his 2020 self, yeah, he's probably better than what current Shedeur Sanders is. Not what Shedeur Sanders could possibly be in the future, but currently, if we're comparing what Shedeur is right now compared to what Deshaun was at his height, there really isn't a comparison right there. Is Deshaun Watson every day? That's not the argument that Shedeur fans are making or Cleveland Browns fans are making. We're basing Deshaun Watson off of 2026, twice ruptured Achilles, twice ACL surgery, glenoid issue with his shoulder, all of the baggage off of the field, all the mental and psychological scars that Deshaun Watson has. That's what we have to go off of with Deshaun Watson. I don't think from a physical standpoint, I don't think from an emotional standpoint, I don't think from a psychological standpoint that Deshaun Watson is capable of being a starting quarterback in the NFL. That's just what I feel in every fiber of my being. He's gone through so much off the field and on the field that I just don't think that mentally Deshaun Watson is what he once was. Deshaun Watson was on the fast track to be one of the best young stars in the NFL, and he essentially threw it all away by being a creep. So I don't think you can conjure that magic up he had early in his career. I think he's a broken and fractured player, if we're going to be honest and frank about it. He was a great player at one time. He is not a great player currently. I have to base Deshaun Watson based on what he's done for the Cleveland Browns in the past 4 seasons. It is not very much compared to what you're paying him. You're paying him 5 years, $230 million. I think the cap hit for this year is like $80 million. So you're 9-10. I believe he's around an 80% rated quarterback over that time period. I believe he has 19 touchdowns, 13 picks, or 12 or 13 picks, something like that. That's a production from a below tier starter. And remember, we're basing this upon Deshaun Watson being a veteran. And people's assessment of Shedeur Sanders is based off him being a 5th-round rookie. I don't think it's fair how people label Shedeur. It's almost like people label Shedeur like he was a 1st-round pick. Now, Shedeur had the season he had as a 1st-round pick. Yeah, I think it would be a fair comparison to be like, yeah, he didn't really have a great rookie season. But if you put everything in context, he was a 5th-round pick. He didn't get any run with the ones in camp. I mean, it's these factor into how Shedeur played in 2025. These nuances, they have to matter. He was not given the same runway that a Jackson Dart, like a Cam Ward, Tyler Shook, those guys all got reps with the ones. That matters. I think this season, if you have a competition where you have a coach and Todd Monken that at bare minimum, maybe he thinks Shedeur is a backup. Maybe he thinks he's a starter. But at bare minimum, he's going to have an opportunity to compete where he did not last year. And I think that's all Shedeur wanted. And that's what us fans of Shedeur want. We just want this to be a fair competition, if it's going to be a fair competition between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. But given all indications from what Todd Monken is saying, he's saying a lot of this is going to be based on who ended the year as a quarterback and a lot of other factors. Todd Monken is rolling like, hey, yeah, we got Deshaun Watson on the team, but he ain't what he used to be. Shedeur, we got an unpolished diamond right here. We need to give him every opportunity we can going forward. And that's how I see it. But, yeah, let's be honest about Deshaun Watson. My analysis of Deshaun Watson is he is a shell of himself. I don't know why media is trying to circle the wagon, and they're trying to be like, oh, Deshaun Watson, he might be able to conjure up some magic. Look, if Deshaun Watson, he didn't have all of the off-field stuff, maybe he can overcome the physical stuff. But Deshaun Watson has the physical stuff, the mental stuff, and he's just not, he hasn't been that great. He doesn't have really anything to base him being great upon in the last 6 years. Deshaun Watson has not been good to great over a sustained period since 2020. Now he's had games. He had the Tennessee Titans game in 2023 where I believe he had 6 incompletions, threw for 289 yards. He had a half of football against the Baltimore Ravens where he was 14 for 14. I believe he had a 3-game stretch in 2023 where he had like 850 something yards. He had 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That was the time period where he had the great game with the Titans. That was in 2023. But yeah, that he messed his shoulder up that year, and he had some other injuries that caused him to miss the rest of 2023. So even when he was trying to compile and trying to, build upon what he was in 2020, his body let him down. How am I to believe that his body won't let him down in 2026? Now, y'all might believe that his abilities are better than Shedeur. They might be. We're going to find out. I just don't think mentally Deshaun Watson, and I don't think physically he's going to be able. I don't think physically or mentally he is a QB1 anymore. That's just what I feel. And I think people are trying to conflate what his contract is and what he used to be to what he is currently. And I don't think that's fair for Shedeur at all. I think people are basing. I think a lot of people are talking about the Browns quarterback situation, and they don't really follow the Cleveland Browns like I do. I know that inside that locker room, even though I'm not in the locker room, Andrew Berry has talked about a youth movement. Shedeur is that youth movement. Why are you talking about a youth movement? And Andrew Berry has alluded to this. Why are you talking about a youth movement and you're talking about a quarterback that's 30, all these issues off the field, all these issues on the field with him being available and him being often injured and him just being a broken down version of himself? Why would you want to go forward with that and you have a budding superstar that the fan base is clamoring to see in 2026? That's my case for Shedeur. And this is my assessment of Deshaun at this point in 2026. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in 2026. That's just me. And I think Tyler Munkin is going to realize once he sees them on the field, it's going to be like, oh yeah, Deshaun, he has some capabilities, but he ain't what he used to be. That's what I think Tyler Munkin is going to be like. Once they get on the field, it's going to be like, all right, yeah, he can sling the ball, but he's still a broken down version of himself. I still would want to go with Shedeur because he has better upside than Deshaun. All right, KSK Sports, rolling it out. Like, comment, subscribe, hype the video up, and I'm rolling out. Peace.